you look at the game the other night, Herbert, 10 carries, 66 yards, and he's not running around because he's an idiot. He's running around because
he's kind of
in that moment, that's what the play called for.
Yeah.
He had nothing, and then he said, the best option right now is me. And his 10 carries for 66 yards, almost every one of those 66 yards was backbreaking. It was extending the drive.
This team wins and they lose. Now their third straight loss. They had 2 stretches of 2 straight losses. Now they have their third straight loss, and it's getting uglier. Let's go to Mike Gill right now and see what Mike Gill has to say. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Go and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Type in on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him on 97.3 ESPN down the shore. Mike, what's going on, man? How you doing this Wednesday morning?
Just got back inside from taking out my trash. It felt like watching the Eagles game on Monday night.
You got a different mic connected, Mike. Your mic's a little low.
Is it better?
Yeah, it's all right. It'll work. I think it's your headset. Normally I get the loud Mike Gill voice. People love the Mike Gill voice.
The booming voice.
I'm not wearing a headset.
No. Oh, is that in your ear?
I got the same setup as always. I don't know.
No, all right. It's fine. It's all good. No worries. I can hear you.
Technology is the bane of all our existence. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work well. But
it's like I do this every single week, and I don't know. Yeah, maybe is this better? Is that
there you go?
There's the key Mike Gill voice. So we got it back. That's positive. Now, can we get back the Eagles offense, Mike Gill?
It depends on how you want to look at this thing, right? I mean, if you watch the game on Monday night, you saw. I think the fact that Hurts had 5 turnovers, the one's a wonky fumble on that one. So he really had like 4 legit turnovers. And if you want to just simply look at saying, he threw 4 interceptions, he was terrible, that would be fair. I mean, I think some of them were bad decisions. The tackle drops in, he doesn't see that guy. The other one on the Smith throw, A.J. Brown, I think that's probably a ball that A.J. probably should catch. The one on the final play of the game can be talked about a lot. He probably should have handed the ball off in that situation or hit Goddard underneath. He had a couple different options. He took the worst option. So I don't think he played great in the game. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, and we talked about this yesterday on our Football at 4 segment, which was they did a lot of different things in their offense. So I think people are like, crushing Hurts, but isn't this what you all wanted to see? More of that, more of the other thing. And either A, the quarterback isn't equipped to do those things, or B, this was the first week of them implementing new things and he'll eventually get it. Which one do you like better? Or do you want them to go back to the simplicity that won them the Super Bowl? Which option do the people watching want today? We had this discussion, me and my buddy all the time. He's an idiot, okay? He says he'd rather be entertained and have them be aesthetically pleasing. And I'm like, they win 3-0 all season long as they win. Why would you complain with that? So I think people are almost more enamored with the aesthetics of the game.
Oh, I think there's more people like him. Maybe not as honest as him. Yeah, but there's more people like him than the opposite.
I don't care at all what the aesthetics of the game look like from week to week. You just got to find ways to get out of there. Now, big picture, is it sustainable? For the Eagles, the simplicity of what they do is sustainable for them because that's who they are and that's what they've done so well. For whatever reason, it's not working as well this year. So can you stick with that? It's where last week in the Hard Knocks where Sirianni says, we just got to keep sticking with what we do. Just keep doing it. Well, at what point, how many weeks into the season is sticking with what you do and it not working the moment where you have to now figure something else out? And I think they're hitting that moment of, do we keep the course or do we just do something that we really don't want to do at this moment here because what we've done in the past is not working? And I think they're kind of at that threshold right now. The weird part is they pulled it out on Monday Night Football in a pretty important game of, hey, let's just try this and see
with the best zone defense in football.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, we got the Raiders coming up. Maybe that's the week we want to. Now, this week against the Raiders, they should be able to hand the ball off 60 times and just run the game out like normal. But yeah, I mean, I think this season's been a microcosm of them trying to be what they've been. It's not working. And then in the moments, I thought they made a great point on Monday night, and I talked about this a lot. They usually would run the game out. They could not run that game out the other night. They just could not. They have no confidence in their run game. 3rd down and 2, they never run the ball anymore. They throw it all the time. They're on the 2-yard line. They run the ball. They get stuffed. They go right back to the pass. They get a holding penalty. Now they have to throw again. They have no confidence in their run game, which has been who they've been literally the entire Sirianni era. They have been a team that runs the football, except for the first 7 games of his tenure. And in the moments where the run game would bail them out this season, they have gotten away from it. And I think it's one of the big problems that we know their line has been a problem and they can't run the ball. Their run game, the lack of confidence that they have in their run game has been really standing out in key moments. Because if they just run the game out the other night, I mean, that's what they did a year ago. That's what they've always
did.
Done.
Have 6 a carry. I know you had that big one. You're going to take that out, but I don't like doing that because that was a part of the formula. This is my pushback, or at least my perspective on, because you and John both said something similar where it's like, go back to what you do where you're winning all these games. My question there is, are we confident that would win them as many games at this point and into the playoffs this year as it did for them a year ago? If you go back to this year, before they started passing the ball in the 3-game losing streak when they were 8-2.
Yeah.
Everybody was still concerned. They were a leader of the league in 3 and outs. The offense, they really didn't win any game handily except for that Giants game, which was, the New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's like an expectation that if they just go back to the simple, they'll keep winning more. I felt like that margin was getting closer and closer and closer and closer.
It was.
Is it fair to assume that if they went back to that, they just win every game?
No, but I would say look at the games that they've played this year. Green Bay is the 1 seed right now. There's not many more teams that you can beat that are above Green Bay. And the game was 10-7. I get it. It's not like they didn't turn the ball over against Green Bay. The margin is small, but they still are better than you. Detroit, they don't turn the ball over. They only scored 16 points, but the margin is we're better than you. You have to be perfect because we're perfect. And most teams can't be perfect because they want to try and do things, and then they make that one back-breaking error or mistake that the Eagles haven't made. So even in these close, ugly games, the difference between Green Bay, Detroit, and Dallas and Chicago is what? They made mistakes versus Dallas and Chicago that they didn't make against Detroit and Green Bay. They don't make the mistakes against those teams. And at the end, the aesthetics are ugly, but they won. They made mistakes against the other 2 teams, and the result was a loss. And you saw that against the Chargers. You turned the ball over 5 times. You shouldn't even be close to in that game, especially against a playoff team. The Chargers may be one. They're banged up. They got all sorts of problems. But you turn the ball over 5 times, you shouldn't be in that game. But if the Eagles don't turn the ball over like normal, that game's not close. They win 24-7, so
2 scores, 3
right,
scores.
The simplicity of their game is what other teams, it's almost like a college team having to get ready for Navy. They never see it.
I made that comp. Yeah, I've made that
right. They
comp.
never see it. A team just being very basic. And what the Eagles have always done well is execute. They out-executed you with and that's why they didn't make the mistakes. And at the end of the day, you look at the scoreboard, 10-7. But they won. Why? Because they never gave you the extra possession. And the last 3 weeks now, listen to this crazy number. Up to the Dallas game, they had 8 turnovers the entire season. 8 the entire year. They had 5 the other night. Yep. They have 9 turnovers in the last 3 games. They had 8 the previous weeks. Those turnovers are too much for them to overcome. And, it's whether or not you want to go back to being the 8 turnover team over the 12-week span and just making it look ugly, or do you want them to try to keep evolving this offense so that they can possibly get into a shootout?
I agree. And hey, I'm one who says I'm in that camp. I think everybody's in that camp, which is you want to be able to do certain things better in the passing game. I don't know why anybody wouldn't be in that camp. But also,
well, I'll tell you what, I'll be the first one that says you have Brown and Smith. How do you go home at night if you're Kevin Patullo and say, I'm doing a great job here? I don't know how
you might know the quarterback's limited.
Okay, well, last night during Hard Knocks, I'm not sure how many people watch this, but
I watched it. Man, that show is royally stupid. But
it's very slow. It's very slow. It's not giving you much. You're absolutely right. But there's a couple takeaways. The one takeaway is there's a moment where Schottenheimer says, let's get 88 and 3 involved. They're our guys. He's telling the coordinator to call those plays. Get those two guys going. That's what we need. And this is what we talk about with the Eagles all the time is, Patullo's calling the plays. There's a moment where Sirianni's like, keep running it at him. Keep pounding them, Kevin. So we always want to try to blame the coordinator for these things and the play calling. This is a collaborative effort from everybody. It's Sirianni. It's Stoutland. It's Patullo. And by the way, at the end of the exclamation point, it's Jalen Hurts. He's the guy that's on the top of that list of what I want to run and when I want to run it. But you saw Dallas right there in the moment where the coach says, get 88 and 3 involved. They are our guys. So the Eagles have to have their moments where they're like, get 11 and 6 involved. They are our guys. You know what I mean?
I thought about that too, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking is,
well,
okay.
Here's the thing.
Real quick, though, for both of you, I guess the big question then is like, without the run game, is the conservative approach good enough to win, in the playoffs? Because they didn't have the run game when they were doing the conservative. I know they were winning, but they didn't have the run game when they were doing the conservative approach. Now, maybe the run game comes on at the end of the year, but if you assume that what it's been through 12 weeks is what it's going to be, or 14 weeks now, what is what it's going to be through the rest of the year, is the conservative approach good enough for the playoffs? That's my big question.
Well, I don't have a lot of faith that this run game is about to break through. The offensive line is what it is. Lane Johnson, now this is interesting. Like, we just wrote him off that he probably wouldn't be back. If he comes back and plays this week, that would be a pretty aggressive timeline to get him back. Because the other night, you're running counter into Tyler Steen and Fred Johnson. Like, let's take a look at the other. Now, Landon Dickerson hasn't been great this year either. I get that. But those two guys have played next to each other for the last 3 seasons. Like, let's go behind those two guys, Mailata and Dickerson, and see if we can get going. And by the way, they moved to the left side and had some success on a couple of runs that Saquon got going. The play that he breaks the touchdown, that's kind of a wonky variation of a tush push that maybe, but it's something that they don't do all that often. They ran outside the tackle box, right? Everything they run is so predictable because it's between these guards. It's like between the 5 and 3 hole over here. It's like everything's coming right here in the middle of the field. This one, they quick pitch it to the outside, and he hits that corner, and bang, you saw Saquon Barkley again. And it was like, whoa. They never go to the outside. Nothing's out there. Everything's right stuck in the middle. I don't have a lot of faith that their offensive line is ready to just say, all right, put it on our shoulders. We're back. I don't feel that way, to go back to your point about the run game kind of helping them out.
Yeah, well, if I revert back to what you were saying about get 88. Number one, that's what I like about those Hard Knock shows. I always bring up Hal Mummy. I tell that conversation all the time. Old college coach, people might remember. Tim Couch's coach set all kind of records.
Kentucky.
He was an offensive coordinator, I think, in the old XFL, whatever, Dallas, I believe. And, they had the coaches mic'd up so you could hear the play calls. And I very few people watched it, obviously, but I thought it was interesting. And I've told the story on Mike's show. I don't know if you remember it. They were really running the football. And his play call was do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again until they stop it. and I thought it was interesting for people to see. It's not what you think it is. It really is just you have something, keep pinning on it. But to your point about get 88 and 3 involved for Schottenheimer, or Shoddy, as Kirk Herbstreit will say 100 times during the broadcast. Back before Nick Sirianni became so guarded, so this was his rookie season as a coach. You know, he told a story about Larry Karras, who people have mentioned, his mentor, his Mount Union coach. And his first interview he ever had to become a coach. And Larry Karras asked him, you know, all right, what kind of offense you want to run? And he started going into it, and he said, stopped him. He said, you don't even know what players you have. And from that moment forward, he was a point of, and I've seen this. I have seen an Eagles play card, a play, whatever you want to call it. There are, and back then it was 6 and 88. It was Devontae. They didn't have AJ yet. There was a whole section for Devontae Smith as a rookie receiver. Whole section for Dallas Goedert to get them involved.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's 11, 6, and 88. It goes in that order. AJ, Devontae. They do that. I know it for a fact.
Yeah.
Like it is the most overrated part of football. And I'm talking about people talking about football. We got so many. We got a comment after the game. What a terrible play call the interception was to end the game. And again, but I saw a media person who I will not mention. What a terrible play call. He had 4 options on that play call.
And he chose the wrong one 3 times in all of it. I mean, the run's there. His own run is there if he wants, what
you got an RPR. It's an RPR. The Eagles, other people called an RPO. They called an RPR because it could be run, it could be pass, it could be run again on the back end. He
had 3 options that he could have chosen before he chose the one that he ended up with that would have all been successful. And in 2022, I used to marvel at the fact that he made the right decision on when to hold, when to keep, when to throw, like 95% of the time. It felt like he was just constantly clicking perfectly on when to give it to Miles, when to pull it, when to throw it. He had the run there to Barkley. He could have kept it himself and taken off. He had the underneath to Goddard there, and that gets you inside the 5-yard line. And he chose, of the 4 options, he chose the option that had the highest level of difficulty. Now, by the way, the defensive player also made a pretty damn good play.
Yeah, great play. Great play by Cam Hart. But
but that's all night. Like, there's so many times as we see where, obviously Aikman points these things out. Well, he's missing a guy right here. He's missing a guy. He has a lot of chances in this offense, whatever you want to think of this offense, where there are guys where he could just say, I'm going to take the quick, easy thing. It always seems that he's holding for something better, bigger. When I always just like the one play that I really liked the other night, he throws a quick out to AJ Brown. Brown catches it. He's 1-on-1 with the corner. He makes that guy miss immediately. First down, right up the sideline there. Those plays where you're getting the ball out fast to your playmakers and then making the other team have to tackle AJ Brown. That's not a spot that they want to be in. So quick to him, 1-on-1. Bang, those little slants. We see the timing. He can do it. We see it often, but we don't see it often enough where you're like, now he's in a rhythm. Now he's bang. 1, 2, 3, bang. 1, 2, 3. There it is. That part of the offense is the perplexing part of when you do it and it works, why do you not go back to it or stay with it or, feature it?
Well, I think he's very hesitant. I think the ball doesn't come out on time, so there's lack of consistency. Not that he can't do it, but again, you're a 10th
that's what I'm saying.
off.
You see that he has it in him where he can go bang right to you, bang right to you. He throws that pass to Smith on the first down, the 3rd down play to get that first down late in the game, and that's a timing where he just rips it in there, and it's. You would think like an NBA guy who's in the heater, like, all right, I got my shot now. Any spot on the floor, I'm ripping it. And it feels like Hurts can't get into that, like, I got it, you're there, bang. And it's just like, even like the shittiest of
different.
quarterbacks, you see guys are just like, okay, I got a little 1, 2, 3, bang, 1, 2, 3 over the middle. And you're like, you get into some sort of rhythm.
People are different, man. I'll tell you, who I always go back to, and Mike and I have had our battles over the Sixers in the process, Ben Simmons. A lot of people forget, Mike might even forget, like, I was very high on Ben Simmons. I thought he was the key to it all.
He just didn't work out.
Well, even more than Joel Embiid, because of the way NBA basketball was going. I thought having the player on the floor was more important than the big man in the modern NBA. Still think that way. But it didn't even register in my mind. People would bring up, well, he doesn't shoot the ball. He doesn't like to shoot the ball. And I'm like, yeah, they'll figure that out. He's an NBA player. He's a tremendous athleticism. He's got all the talent in the world. He'll figure that out. He'll gain he went the other way. You can't figure that stuff. That's literally a psychological issue. To all of us, I look at somebody with that kind of talent and I go, what do you mean he's afraid to shoot the ball? That he'll figure that. That won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out it was a big bucket problem.
It was a big problem, right? Yeah, listen, and I guess you feel like a guy who has been the MVP of the Super Bowl, was second in the MVP voting, has shown a propensity to be a elite level player in the moments, that wouldn't be a mental block or a problem for him. Like that's the oddity here, is you do have a guy who already has the credentials. Ben never quite got to. I mean, he
had plenty of credentials early. I think early in the, how many times was he an all-star?
Listen, Ben is we could have a 4-hour discussion on that, and we could probably say we need another 4 hours. That said, he was a guy who did seemingly have at some point a blockage that hindered him. Are we saying that Hurts is having that same blockage now?
Well, I'm not saying to that degree. There's that's
not to that degree.
That's a true anomaly. Like when Steve Sachs all of a sudden couldn't throw the ball from second base. You have these true anomalies but they emphasize what can happen. And right now you got a guy who just doesn't feel comfortable doing things.
And the other interesting point about where Hurts is in his career, okay? You look at the game the other night, Herbert, 10 carries, 66 yards, and he's not running around because he's an idiot. He's running around because
he's kind of
in that moment, that's what the play called for. Yeah. He had nothing, and then he said, the best option right now is me. And his 10 carries for 66 yards, almost every one of those 66 yards was backbreaking. It was extending the drive. He needed 4, he got 4. He needed 7, he got 7, right? And Jalen has taken that out. And I say, these quarterbacks, they play to get paid. They get paid, and now you're paying for a guy that you didn't actually, that's not the guy you paid. You paid Jalen because he was this dynamic player in both the run and the passing game. Well, now you've got his $250 million, and you're like, well, we don't want to run him anymore. Well, then you shouldn't have paid him, because you got a different quarterback all of a sudden.
Do you think it's him?
I don't know. That's a good question.
You watched that game the other night, Mike? I mean, I don't know. I'm only speculating. I can't speak to it, but Justin Herbert's got a broken hand, and this dude's breaking off run. I mean, Justin Herbert might be a better thrower of the football than Jalen, and he's very athletic for his size. Yeah, he's not a better runner than Jalen, or at least he shouldn't be a better runner than Jalen.
By the way, and I should have brought this up. I mean, and I don't know if it's the case, but it is week 14 going into week 15. Maybe he's banged up. I don't know why I didn't bring it up, but I thought about it. I said, yeah. I mean,
that's fine to say now, but he hasn't done it all year. So was he banged up in week 1 through 8? I don't know, but.
No, it's down. I think it's a combination of things. It's down from the perspective of they were trying to manage him better. But
that's in recent weeks, you're trying to manage a guy that you paid because he was great doing this, and now you're saying we don't want him to do the thing that he was that made us want to sign him.
Well,
Because
but I think you see it in overtime. You do see little glints where he says, "All right, I got to go. I got to go."
Sure, and I'm not saying
play.
you need to be reckless. Jackson Dart's going to get himself killed out there. We're
Yeah.
not asking that he just, but there are moments where it's third down.
But I think you look at a
holding.
particular game like Justin Herbert shouldn't be able to run the football like Jalen Hurts. But I think it's like everybody's cognizant of how good Jalen Hurts is to run the ball. Like if you want to, there's not many criticisms you can make of that defense on that particular game partially because the Chargers were so limited.
Mm-hmm.
One criticism I would make, as it became clear late in the game that they couldn't do anything in the passing game because they couldn't pass protect at all.
Yeah.
Why is there no sort of more emphasis on stopping? Because it became obvious to me at a certain point, he's just going to pull the ball down and look for the space and try to run the football.
Yeah, right. Which he did.
Shouldn't they have made that adjustment?
And that is an intuition of, listen, my guys aren't there. I'm the best option here. And there's a lot of times throughout the course of these games where on third down, I'm not saying you have to go crazy on first down, but how many times there's a moment in that game the other night, I forget what the down and distance was, but I said, if you watch this same game last year before, they're running quarterback draw, open and out, and Jalen's just taking a step back and moving forward. I don't remember the last time I've seen that play, maybe early in the year.
Well, they ran a couple quarterback draws over. I think they ran it both in Dallas and Chicago. I believe. Now, not maybe. A lot.
Right, yeah. But it used to be a goal line staple for them where he would just go, right through up the middle there. It just, a lot of the design stuff from him is out. Okay, fine. My point is you want to protect him. You don't want him running like crazy. But then you don't have to call the design stuff for him. But on the third down plays, that's where your team needs you to improvise a little bit at times. And I think there was multiple moments in that game that he could help them get that first down, and he's not taking it. And we know this. As soon as he rolls out towards that sideline, that play is over. I've never seen anything like it. As soon as he gets out of that pocket, I've never seen him make that on the run.
That's most quarterbacks. I mean, that's the whole thing. Geez. Like you see really, really bad quarterbacks, when their eyes go down, the play's over. I mean, the play's over. It's one thing. And when they start blushing instead of climbing, the play's over. Bad. I'm talking about really bad quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But Jalen, what he's doing. At times, nothing's there, and he's just going to throw it out at the last minute. The one guy, who's really good at that, Caleb Williams, man.
Yeah,
you got to get him.
You watched Caleb Williams throw. He made a throw the other night. Now, it was out of bounds. I mean, he just threw it away.
Yeah.
But his flick reminds me.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
It's like Michael Vick, where he just flicks his wrist and the thing goes flying.
Yeah.
But I think Hurts, listen, we do all these, when you're on the air in July and August and the lists come out and then people are perplexed that Jalen Hurts isn't in the top, whatever. And I'm like, because he doesn't belong there. That's like you put a list together and it's not based on accomplishments. These people put lists together based on skill set and who they would want because of their skills. Like, back in the day, I'm 48 years old. So, like, Jeff George never won anything, but he would always be the guy that, like, oh, Jeff George, because he had this unbelievable arm. Jalen Hurts is not in the conversation of skill set elite. He's not like Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes and all those guys that everybody wants to lump him in there with. His reasoning to be lumped in with them is his accomplishments and what he has been able to accomplish in terms of being a winner and the moments that he's had. And look, the other night, you're watching that game, he's playing terrible. And in the back of your mind, I'm thinking, he's played really bad tonight, but this is the game where he's going to make something happen. And then he makes that throw to A.J. Brown, and you're like, that's the throw, and A.J. doesn't catch it. So there are the moments of where
the 3rd and 16 of Devontae Smith in overtime, I thought, all right, here it is.
Exactly.
I told Zander, I'm gonna have that conversation after the game of, He played shitty and he made a play when it counted.
Exactly. And at that moment, you're thinking he's played so bad, but somehow he's going to pull this game out because you've seen it 100 times where that's where he belongs in that conversation, because he doesn't wilt under the pressure. That's generally why he would be in that conversation. But throughout the rest of the game, he's really not in that conversation. So it's a weird dynamic. I talk about this on my radio show the other day. You walk into a bar in New England and say Tom Brady's name, you'll get universal acceptance. Indianapolis, say Peyton Manning's name, you'll get universal acceptance. Bourbon Street, say Drew Brees, not one complaint. You go to a bar in South Philly, bring up Jalen Hurts, you're going to have an argument for 5 hours on this guy stinks. No, he's great.
That's the truest thing I've ever heard, man. That's the truth. I'm talking to the post office guy about this very same. I walk into the post office and wear my JAKIB hat. The guy at the post office knows me. And he's like, man, what's our quarterback doing, man? What's he doing out there? I'm like, oh, please, man, save it for me. Save it.
But that's the thing is, when you walk into certain towns and bring up the quarterback and they are up there, there's no argument. You say Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City barbecue, having a Kansas City barbecue, there's not one person saying the guy stinks.
There's one. There's always one. That's the only part I'll disagree with. There's always one. Somebody in New Orleans hates Drew Brees. Somebody in Indy hates Peyton.
They are way in the minority, as opposed to you walk into your favorite bar in down the shore on a summer night and start talking about Jalen Hurts on that list. Some people would say he doesn't belong to be in the top 10, and the other half would say, what are you talking about? He's number 5. I mean, he is the most polarizing discussion. The whole team put Sirianni as the head coach. Aikman said it the other night. He's got the best resume over a 4-year span of any coach in the history of the game. And yet, there are people that would have no problem with him being dismissed.
I think even more so than Jalen. I say that all the time. I'm convinced he could beat Sean McVay 10 consecutive times, and everybody would say Sean McVay is a better coach. Everybody.
Yeah. Well, he's essentially halfway there. What's he beating him 5 straight times?
Exactly.
And everybody in his wake. I mean, Kevin O'Connell, he's taking him down.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, Sirianni, I might have talked about this here. I said, this guy's Rocky Balboa. He should be the most popular sports figure in the whole city of Philadelphia. I mean, it's literally a Rocky script where they pick this guy out of a phone catalog and we're like, this is the coach, this guy right here, Rocky Balboa, the Italian stallion. And he wins the Super Bowl. He's been to the playoffs every year. He's gotten you to the Super Bowl twice. You're like, this guy sucks. I mean, like, this is the kind of things that this football team has done to this city, where it's the quarterback isn't good enough, the coach isn't good enough, and they would rather somebody different after winning the Super Bowl, after a 4-year run where you haven't missed the playoffs. It is kind of wild. It's like the most Philadelphia sports story that Philadelphia could even come up with.
Yeah, I agree with that. But
where do they go then, Mike? They've lost 3 straight and they're 8-5. It feels like things are, we don't feel like the dominant team that we once felt. I think I don't want to speak for the whole city, but it feels like that's the feeling in the city. Where do they go from here? Are you still look at them as Super Bowl contender? Are they a one and done in your eyes? I mean, the NFC is pretty weak, dude. Not weak, but feels like there's always going to be an
the NFC is very anybody can beat anybody. I don't know if it's weak. It's just that everybody is like, I think there's a team, San Francisco. Nobody's talking about them at all. They're not on. They haven't played a lot of national games. They're just kind of like lingering. They keep winning. They've been banged up. The quarterback's missed a lot of time. McCaffrey's not playing here and there. The receiving core's banged up, and yet they just keep winning. Bosa's been out. I mean, you look at not Bosa, the linebacker Warner. He's been out. They've got all sorts of problems, and yet they keep winning. That's a team that no one's paying attention to. They're good. Seattle, no one really sees them. That team's really good. You just don't believe in them because of Darnold and his pass, but that team is really, really good. The Rams, how many times are you going to knock them off before they finally are like, all right, we got you? It's not a fait accompli that you play the Rams. You're just going to beat them because you always have.
Yeah, that's what Kerr was telling me. He's like, they're better because they beat them in September. I'm like, Jeff, the Rams are better than the Eagles right now. I don't give a shit what you say about the September game.
Well, and I think the Rams look at that game and say, we're better than them. We're better than they are.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
And like, yes, they got that win over us in September, but the next time we get them when it counts more, we know we're better than them. And so I think the Rams, Seattle, San Francisco, Chicago's beating you. Green Bay, you had to obviously have a near perfect game to beat them. So while there's not a team that's head and shoulders, the depth of the conference has every one of those teams can beat you, but they have to play their best, right? They can't turn the ball over. So Philadelphia just has to really fine-tune what they have done well and hope that, hey, on that Sunday, we don't turn the ball over, because when we have turned the ball over, that's what cost us against Chicago. But when we take care of the ball, that's why we beat the Rams. That's why we beat Green Bay. So it's such a fine line for them, but that's a fine line for everybody. There's not a talent head and shoulders better than anybody. So what can they do is, look, they got to get Lane Johnson back. And if that happens, I think that helps out the offensive line. We know their record without him. And it might not seem like a lot because everybody loves the sacks. Fred Johnson's not giving up sacks, but he gives up pressure that Lane's not. And it forces Jalen to have to kind of move off of his spots and get out of there.
Thing too, dude. I don't think Jalen's as comfortable back there when Lane's not in,
No, of course he's not.
Even if there's no pressure, he feels pressure,
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's like Fred, again, he's not giving up sacks, and everybody gets enamored with the sack number. But when you see Fred Johnson getting pushed back closer to your face, like, he's more apt to try to make quick decisions to get out of there. And we know as soon as he gets out of there, generally not a good result in the play. Can they get that run game, refined a little bit? It started the other. People look at the yardage that Barkley got and the big run and will say, oh, look, they got it going. They didn't really get it going. Their run game had like 3 big runs that he had. Other than that, he still did not have a whole heck of a lot of room to roam back there.
No. And by the way, Saquon had an awful game in pass protection. There's been like 4 or 5 games like that. He just gets.
He's not very good. He's not very good at pass
but
protection.
He's not that bad. I was looking at PFF gave him a 4.4 in pass. I've never seen that. For instance, his worst mark besides that was 27.4, which is also awful. But
did you guys see Hurts's rating was lower than if you spike the football every play of a game?
Yeah, his passer rating.
Yeah.
Well, that's the dumbest stat in the history of the world. But
why wouldn't you
when
get
it's
a
good,
0?
though, the fans will use it. When it's good, it's
that's consistently.
That is like Celsius.
In what world is 158.3 perfect? Does that make sense to anybody?
Who comes up with these arbitrary? No, I said it's like when you travel overseas and they use Celsius degrees.
It's like
19 is not supposed to be warm. That's a number that's low for, like, I know it sounds like you like so simplistic, but if you spike the ball every single time, your rating should be 0. You did not complete a pass.
Exactly.
You weren't close to completing a pass. You didn't come anywhere near completing a pass. And by the way, the conversation that will go on forever is, how come a spike clock is not an intentional grounding?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I mean, hey, over legislation. You talk about over legislation. When you have a scale that yields a number from 0 to 158.3, like, who came up with that?
Yeah, who decided that?
And by the way, nobody knows how to calculate it. None of the fans know how to calculate it. And why would they? I'm not blaming.
It gets murky, too, because you have the QB rating, and then ESPN throws in its own QBR, and it's like,
they have a different one, which is better. If all the EPA, the QBR passer rating is the official NFL stat. That's what they're talking about with it's not quarterback rating, it's passer rating. So it doesn't take into account running the football. Nothing. It doesn't take into account playing the position. It's just if you have a good passer rating, What it means is you're effective passing the football. That's it. That's really it. It's a really bad stat. And actually the ESPN stats better, which is QBR. The EPA stats are better if you want to see how a quarterback is actually playing.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
The they have the Raiders this week, and this season everybody's throwing the 2023 comparisons. I think there's a lot of parallels to what's going on right now. Whereas you played Seattle on a Monday night out there, Hurts threw an interception to seal that loss. You played the Chargers on a Monday night, Hurts throws an interception to seal that loss. And then it was like, well, you have the Cardinals, you should take care of the Cardinals. And the Cardinals came to Philadelphia and scored 38 against you. And now you have the Raiders, who everybody thinks is.
Boy, I hope Kenny Pickett plays.
We'll see. Geno got banged up in the game, but I don't think it was. I mean, I don't know. It was really ambiguous on how.
Wouldn't it be great if Kenny Pickett comes back and beats the Eagles?
That would be crazy. But
I'll tell you this: Pete Carroll's undefeated versus the Birds, and they run.
Who cares? That's the worst. Yeah, I take it back. That's the worst stat in the world.
Well, why do you tell me that Nick Sirianni beats McVay all the time? Who cares?
Well, if I told you if Nick Sirianni had a 2-11 team and was going in against Sean McVay this year, I wouldn't be harping on he's beat him every time. He's got a good team. Pete Carroll dominated the Eagles for years, as did Russell Wilson. That narrative. Would you have a problem playing Russell Wilson tonight? Probably not.
That's fair.
No, but that Russell Wilson back then was outstanding, and a lot of people are saying that hey, Jalen Hurts is a very Russell Wilson-esque type of player. Where
that was the comp for many years,
right? Exactly. But this Raider game, like I look back at, they played that season the 49ers, and the 49ers kind of took their soul, ripped it out, and they played Dallas and were up 21-0. I don't think we put as much stock into what that loss kind of meant for them as, oh my God, we blew a 21-point lead here against a team that we were handling. And then the next week in 2023, they got blasted by Dallas the next week. Well, they got blasted by the Bears on their home field the very next week. And it was like 2 in a row. And then you went on the road just like that. You're on a Monday night, and that was when they fired Desai and all that stuff. And here's all this talk about the coordinator, and are you going to change the play caller? They didn't do it this time, but a very similar result where you throw an interception to seal that game. And then I think in 2023, they had the Giants on Christmas night. They won that game, but man, it was an ugly game. And then they had that Cardinal game. It was like, they got the Cardinals. They'll win that game. And everyone's like, it's the Raiders. If they lose this Raider game, man, you got big problems. Now, if they get back on track and beat the Raiders, it's going to be, it was only the Raiders. And then you got Washington.
As it should be, by the way.
Right. And then you got Washington twice and Buffalo in there. So it's going to make it feel like they really haven't proven anything to anybody because of the way the schedule is set up here. But that Buffalo game will be a very interesting moment in this season, depending on who needs what and where and all that stuff. Because if you have to go to Buffalo and win a game, they're going to need that game because they're probably going to be behind in the East. Maybe they close the gap on New England, that AFC wild card over there. So they're going to need that game, Buffalo, almost in every – because there was a time where you're like, that Buffalo game late in the year, both those teams might be so far because Buffalo, the AFC East, no one thought that New England was going to be
that was my guaranteed pick. I always have a guaranteed division winner, and my guarantee was Buffalo. And it's not looking good right now.
No, and that's what I'm saying. In the beginning of the year, when that schedule came out, you figured Buffalo would probably be playing for nothing because they would have that division pretty much locked up. And similar to you, now both these teams might be fighting for something in a game. And I said, if you were one of those travel groups and you had to try to sell, do you want to go to Buffalo December 27th, 2 days after Christmas? That would be a tough sell. You're lucky you get your payment in advance on those.
Yeah. Might be meaningful though, but there will be snow on the ground. It's just a matter of.
I hear there might be snow on the ground
during
Sunday.
The game. Yeah,
this Sunday.
Devin White is also coming back. Legendary Eagles linebacker. Albert Okwegbanon is on the Raiders. Kenny Pickett.
Who knew he was still in the league?
Yeah, who knew? He's only on the practice squad, so I don't know. Terrell Edmonds, also former Eagles great, coming back with the Las Vegas Raiders. And obviously, they poached the Eagles front office this offseason. Anthony Patch and Brandon Hunt are over with the Raiders. So there you have it.
Raiders stink. All I'm saying is I'm not there. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one guy who doesn't stink, and that's Brock Bowers.
No, he doesn't stink.
He's very good, and an area where the Eagles could be susceptible.
Yeah. All right, Mike. Do you think they win on? We think they win on Sunday, right?
Yeah, I mean the Raiders are really, really, really bad. They're banged up too, so that adds to their badness. If you lose this game, though, ooh, baby, it would be very.
I'm gonna say if they lose this game, they're not making the playoffs.
Well, and I know I talked to you yesterday, John. I think about Dallas making it more interesting, and everybody's like, well, I mean, Dallas's schedule sets up, and listen, they're so inconsistent.
Yeah,
They lose that Lion game, but the rest of their schedule.
Boy, if they beat the Lions, it would be fun. It would have been fun, but they didn't.
Yeah, they didn't. But the rest of their schedule is they should be the favorite in every single game. I would imagine.
Commanders, Giants, Chargers.
They play the Chargers and they play the Vikings this week. Then the Chargers next week. Both games are in Dallas.
Look out for JJ McCarthy starting to get it. Look out.
The two NFC East games they play at the end of the year are on the road. But I would imagine they are favored in all 4 of their games. I would imagine Philly is favored in at least 3 of their last 4 games. Should be interesting. That tie is always just kind of looms.
Yeah. Could loom in a good way, could loom in a bad way. But these next 2 weeks are confidence builders. The Eagles got to gain some confidence by playing Las Vegas and Washington. We'll see if they can do it. If not, they might be in some trouble, boys.
Yeah.
At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on the X platform, his YouTube page. Subscribe there. 97.3 down the shore, 97.5 up here.
I will be Saturday. I will be on 97.5 in Philly. I also have a couple midday shows coming up there. I don't have the dates yet, but I'll be
all right. Keep us
filling in a couple days. So this Saturday I'll be on from 10 to 1.
10 to 1.
Good stuff, Mike. All right, man. Appreciate you joining in as always, Mike. You're always generous with your time here, and we love having you on. Thank you, brother. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, man.